Start as you mean to go on. It's currently -3 in my workshop. Really, really cold. I've said it before and I'll fucking say it again. Putting these connectors on £100 plastic Spetsner arms is the same as putting Pirelli tyres on a fucking unicycle. This one's coming for a repair and very minor upgrades. The budget on this is almost non-existent. You can see already though, the nozzle doesn't go. Gearbox taken apart, put back together after cleaning, doesn't work. So here we go. I've got a fucking thing around my face keeping me warm. I've got like 15 different fucking layers on. I am cold. Fucking pointless spring. The nozzle is off of the tappet plate. No air seal whatsoever. Still no air seal. Barely an air seal. Don't like it. I just don't like it. Battery is now on 62. How much nicer is that? Somewhere inside the box might be the fake bolt hold open. It might not. We'll have to see. Hop set for 0.25s. 105. Okay, so you saw what I did to this one to make it nice, I guess is the correct terminology. Nice. So, I changed out the cylinder head, the piston head, 2 off the release side of the sector gear, 1 off of the pickup side of the sector gear, and an M110 spring. And the outcome is that it fires nicely on the 7.4. Obviously, if you give me less budget to work with, I can do less cool and crazy shit. But it's not to say that I can't do a lot with it. Now, there are many things that I don't like about the new Spetsner stuff, but there are still some things where I go, yeah, okay, that's not too bad. For the price point, it still is good, but there's still stuff that I definitely would change. Now, because of the way this gun is performing, I want to use no more than 2 5s in it. My suggestion for them is use 2 5s, but they can change their spring out to whatever they want. The spring that came in it was absolutely miniature, just tiny, so that's just useless. The piston head is crap, the cylinder head is crap. What it does come with that I like is a high cap mag. There are so many fucking benefits to having a high cap mag. So many benefits, right? Midcap syndrome, that's what I want to talk about, because there are some guns that are just fucking rife with it. VFCs, yep, but especially the MCXs, the way their outer barrel design is and all that kind of shit, they just really suffer with midcap syndrome. Now, I've been over the EPM1 mag issue. They're crap. You cause damage to your gun by using them, blah, 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 blah. The fucking videos, I'll put it up there somewhere. You can watch that back to your fucking heart's content. We're going to talk about why I really like high caps. So the obvious elephant in the room is they rattle. Oh fucking dear. Oh fucking dear. That's the downside. They rattle. There is no other downside. There's no other downside. I finished up doing a... I've forgotten. I finished up doing an LCT G3. I found that with their midcaps, everyone knows the LCT G3 standard mags are dog shit. If you pump in, so if you fill up your speed loader all the way to the top and you feed it ming 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 until you feel the compression start to get a little bit tougher, that's where the BBs are going around the corner, that's the point to stop. And generally speaking, 2.5s in your G3 by LCT is going to be absolutely bob on. And it sucks because the LCT G3 is lovely. Here's my HK33. I love it. I absolutely fucking adore it. And there are things about it that makes it better than the G3. And what makes it better than the G3 is this moulded plastic lower that is absolutely precise every single time. That is awesome. I cannot wait until LCT finally pull their finger out and bring us their MP5, because, you know, they're going to be about 500 quid, I'm sure. I've seen a few little smutterings that it's going to happen. And when it happens, I'm going to have 5 of them. I'm having 5. Because these just look the fucking tits. They are absolutely gorgeous. And actually, these have got a really, really good blowback system. A really good blowback system. You take this gun and you fire it and you've got the blowback. This blows back about that far. And it's really noisy and it's really satisfying. But their piston is a bit shit. And it makes the whole thing very noisy. But if you want to deactivate it, you simply take the charging handle and you rack it back and lock it. And that disables your blowback. And that's something I like. If guns had a disabling of the blowback feature, so you can have your moment of releasing Dakar upon the world, then you can have, I've learnt that term from my friend Bob, releasing Dakar upon the world, and then when you want to be actually in the game zone and possibly not be spotted, you just rack it and lock it and then carry on shooting like a regular AEG. That is awesome. It's the polymer part of this that makes it good. Anyway, I digress. These mags are better than the G3 ones because, although this is the high cap, I do have mid caps, the BBs feed down and up and they've got a lot more room to move. And you can get more in there before mid-cap syndrome starts to hit home. Now, let's discuss the mid-cap syndrome. I talk about it like everyone knows what it is, and that's my own hypocrisy. That's just me being a fucking hypocrite, because I know full well that people don't know a lot of what this terminology is. So mid-cap syndrome, lots of BBs stack up and they push pressure on your nozzle. With the LCT G3, you do find that when you use heavier ammo, it affects it more. Now, the industry standard, I guess, for most AEGs is 0.25s and then 0.28s. People didn't really put a lot of thought into 3.2s and whatever, but people are now making guns that use 3.2s out the box. But you do get that mid-cap syndrome where the extra weight of the plastic on top just doesn't quite feed in properly and all this stuff. There's many reasons behind it. Why high caps are a godsend is because you can adjust the choke, if that's how you want to think about it. You can adjust how much pressure is on the BBs. Let me give you an example. These are all 3.2s, we're not firing them, so it doesn't matter. Alright? So I wind them through. As I wind them, you see them start to appear, get to the top of the mag and stop. That much winding there is enough to probably feed 7 or 8. That's about it. So you wind it up. And you keep winding until the coiled spring has enough tension on the BBs to load as many as possible before you've got to wind it again. when I used to do rental briefs for people, I'd say, if you are waiting for the game to start, wind your mag. If you can't remember if you wound your mag, wind your mag. If you're ducking behind cover, wind your mag. If you take a moment to take a breather, wind your mag. People, it's easier to check how many you've got by shaking your gun. You see the rental players all the time shake their entire gun to see how many BBs they got left. And obviously it does mean that this stack here is kind of wasted, right? That's a fact. But then you just pour more in. So downside, you've got that sound. Upside, if I wind this to its fullest capacity, I'm giving it the most pressure on the BBs as possible. And in some mags, when you wind it all the way to the top, you might find that as it winds to its fullest, BBs ping out the top, and it never quite reaches fully wound. That's because the pressure is too high. Now, if you find that you're getting the same issue, the same mid-cap syndrome, the same problem where the pressure of the BB is too great, and it's causing the first 20, 30, 40, 50 shots from your mag to just spit out the gun at about 100 feet per second, then you have the ability to make that less. I don't remember how many winds I gave that, right? So we're going to just very briefly do that again. Going to see. So now they're at the top. I think that was 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 67, 68, 69, 70. 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. That's a lot of winds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 18. 118, and it's fully wound. Okay? Now, you can't do this any real damage by overwinding it. Back in the day you could, but that's when high caps were 45 quid a piece. I remember my Uzi mags were £48 a piece for 220 rounds, I think it was. It's crazy. So you'd fix them. Now you just throw it in the bin because they're what, fucking 10, 15 quid? So you've got that going on. Now, if that gives you too much pressure and the first 10, 15 rounds are low powered and spitting, all you've got to do is not wind it 118 times. You could wind it 50 times and it's going to still clear most of this mag, and you're adjusting the amount of pressure put on the BBs. You are effectively adjusting the choke or the throttle, and it's far easier to make your guns feed in the high cap. Far easier. High caps really are a fucking blessing, but it's become that thing. It's annoying when it rattles. As I said before, you've heard you cunts breathe and talk, right? Everyone knows you're there. Everyone knows you're there. So they don't care about that because they can fucking... I like anime. I really like The Force Awakens. I wish I was a Jedi. Right? They can hear your fucking stupid ass coming. So they don't care about that. They don't care. They can't hear that, they can hear you. So if that annoys you, there's one reason not to use high caps. For every other reason, you can carry less mags. You can carry 2 spare mags with you, and effectively, this is what, 300 rounds, I guess? 350 rounds? This will last as long as 2 decent mid-caps. And let's face it, even with EPMs, not EPM 1s, but the regular old EPM mags, which I've got here, these fit and feed inside some guns that are very fussy because of this lip here. And they just fit and feed nicely. But in things like the MCX, they still act like a dick. You know, there are some guns where these just still act like a wanker. And if you've got no choice, you've got something like an LCT G3, you've got one choice. Use their shitty mid-caps, or modify some other mag to try and make it fit and have them wobbling and fuck around. If you're going to spend that time fucking around, that's fine, that's up to you, but honestly, use the high cap because you can adjust how they feed. It's a saner way of running your gun, it really is. So, even with these and things like MCXs, they just get mid-cap syndrome. So I'm going to run through a couple of little things that you can do to stop this from happening. And I say to stop it from happening because there's no fucking guarantee. Cylinder head. Nozzle. That goes on there. It's a very tight O-ring on there. Very tight. And I don't like that tight O-ring where it's quite tough to move it. You can put a bit of lube on there, right? And that helps free it up a little bit. But having the O-ring on there does require a bit of extra maintenance, because when that lube starts to give up and you run out of lube, the air seal that's at the back here and the stabilising is more of what it does. That effect goes away. And you don't want this being sluggish. You want that to be nice and smooth and fast. You don't want that sluggish. I don't like double O-ring air nozzles for that reason. I prefer single O-ring, because it's just, although it helps stabilise, it does cause misfeeds because there's a lot of pressure there, right? So let's get a bit more lube on it. I've used a miniature amount of silicone grease there. And you can see there now, a lot nicer. Now, when your tappet plate is relaxed and your gears are set where they are, there's no pre-cocking on, your nozzle sits about there. And you can see I can move this. See that? As the BBs are heading in like that, it's that way up. I'm going to show you this way just for argument's sake. As the BBs go in and they touch the nozzle, if that is forward, it's causing that to move up and down. The further back it is, the less. And there's always a BB touching this. Even when you've just fed one into the chamber, plop, there it goes, there's a BB touching this on the bottom. And it's touching it about here, right at the tip. So it's causing movement. And that movement is what is causing BBs to not feed properly into your chamber. They're not quite making it into the hot rubber lips. Perhaps this is being delayed. Perhaps it's causing this to leak air back on itself. There's many reasons why you don't want that moving around. So you basically have to go through every single type of nozzle and cylinder head, and eventually you'll find the ones that work best for you. Unless you've got a gun that has got a very particular nozzle length, or perhaps a particular cylinder, you're fucked. You're absolutely fucked. There's nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it. So you need to find the ones that fit the best. Now, because of that O-ring, you can't do things like, I was considering running a groove about here and then putting a very tiny O-ring on it so that that would not move up and down. But unfortunately, it's just not possible, because then you have to go without an O-ring at the back, and that can cause the same thing. So that is what midcap syndrome is, and that is what causes it. So there are many things you can do, many things. And I know my favourite method for getting rid of it, but again, it doesn't always work. Now, finding the correct parts for the job is always better than a bodge. Always better than a bodge. Example. No movement whatsoever. Absolutely none. Not a bit of movement. That is gorgeously tight. That is awesome. Look at that. None. No matter how far forward, no movement on the nozzle. There's no O-ring inside there. They've just precisely made that nozzle so that it is precise with that cylinder head. And it's that simple. It's just precise. And that is an absolute fluke, because the people who make this and the people who make this have never even had a conversation. They probably don't even know that each other exist. Now this one here, 21.1. This exact nozzle is what I was using these in MCXs because I found they were getting rid of the midcap syndrome because of that lack of movement. But because they're so precise, they bind up a little bit. And there's no rubber O-ring, so you can't just grease the problem away. So you're like, oh fuck, what do I do now? Then I'd use these ones. Now these are also quite, there's a bit of play on it, but not a lot. Not a lot of play. Not as much as one of these. That has got fuck tons of play. This doesn't. Now these are 21.1mm also, I believe. Let's find out. .21 flat. And these are ideal because the length means that you get that perfect feed even in the fussiest of hop units with the fussiest of wobbly outer barrels like an MCX. However, the taper in most M4s, G&G hop units, all kinds of things, although this is really designed for a P90, that non-taper is a problem. Because you might find that once that gets inside the hop unit, let's grab out a hop unit. In some hop units it's fine. But in some, you've got a lot of up and down movement, which can make the midcap syndrome worse. Some of the hop units I've got, that sits in there, and there's less wobble, but still some. And then hop units like this, where there's just no movement at all. But the hop unit's crap. It's just a crap hop unit, so you're like, well, fuck. So, we can't use that one either. This scuffed up one is one of my testers. This is a Perrin adjustable nozzle. Now, one of these, you can see that the play, still quite a bit of play in there, but not as much as this one. About the same as this one, but more play than that one. And I can make that any length I want. Any length I want, because it's adjustable. And these come with 2 different base lengths, right? So, with that base length, we can get that hop unit where the purple one was rubbing. We get that in there. You can see, uh-oh, it doesn't fit. It's too fat. Just too fat. There are so many different variations of nozzles and so many different variations of cylinder heads. What are you going to do? Well, here's a fix for you. This takes a little bit of precision. You can't just, if you get this wrong, you're going to fuck up your cylinder head, alright? But I'm going to show you what to do. You place that in there like that, right? You can see that even if I hit it at a funny angle, it's probably still going to widen equally. But as best you can, you take something like that. And this was just back in my really early videos, like fucking 3 years ago. This had a spring in the middle and one at the other end. And it's for marking drill points. You pull it on the spring and let it go, and clack, it gives you a little pin punch. That's the term I'm looking for, pin punch. So I've still got this piece left. That goes in there. And then you give it a little tiny tap with a hammer on a hard surface. Tiniest of taps. I don't know if you can see it. Let's put it on something that's a white background. That is now tapered out very slightly. Then you take your nozzle. That movement has gone. There is no movement. But it's a very gradual process. If you do it too far, let's do it. For the sake of science, let's do it. And then let's just smooth it out a little bit on the outside. Okay? Not my smoothest job, really isn't. Put that on there. I've gone too far with it, but I have smoothed it out. Listen. You can hear the scratching. It's possible to claw it back. Okay, I've now just smoothed that with a sanding sponge a little bit. I've managed to claw it back. Pit of despair. Thought it was fucked, but it's not. So now, if I line that up, there's no wobble. We're talking fractions, margins, nanos of nozzle movement. There's nothing there. That is one of the best cures for midcap syndrome. But all it takes is something like an EPM1 mag to be used, or you smack a mag in, or just over time, things start to bend back to where they were, and you might find that, unfortunately, your midcap syndrome does come back. Airsoft parts are normally made to an average standard. It would be lovely, like max cylinder heads and max nozzles together with max hop units should be perfect, but they're not. It's a bit dusty, but you get the idea. You'd assume that these max parts together would be absolutely bang on, with no wobble, right? More wobble than most. Look at that. More wobble than most. And why? They're just taking other people's designs and claiming it as their own. So there you go. That was a little chat about midcap syndrome. Hopefully you get it and you understand. And maybe you'll see why I just prefer to pick up a high cap. Because if that high cap fits in the gun and I can't make it fall out, then do you know what? I'm using a fucking high cap. I just like a high cap.